What are we actually talking about when we're talking about machines? For today's book club, I'm going to introduce you to what is probably my favourite book ever about photocopiers. To be more precise, about the people who repair photocopiers. And it's this book, Talking About Machines by Julian Orr. And yeah, I'm not kidding you. This book is all about people who repair photocopiers. Back in the 1990s, Julian Orr spent about 6 months following round a small group of mostly men, some women as well, who were service engineers for one of the big photocopier companies in America. And their machines were in offices all over the west coast of America. And these guys used to have to go in and fix them. Now, engineers will tell you they don't tell stories. In fact, I've had engineers come up to me and say, I'm an engineer, I don't do emotion, I don't do story. And yeah, they're very resistant. They would like to think that they deal in facts and they deal in kind of, the facts and the instructions in the manual, and that's what they're good at. But this book suggests otherwise. It suggests that actually stories are a vital part of the engineer's job. So if you're managing engineers, or if you are an engineer, I think you'll find this really interesting. So, what's Talking About Machines all about? Well, the first point that Julian makes in the book, the first point I took from it, is that machines are, in effect, characters in stories. When a machine breaks down, particularly, or a machine that's working really, really well, we treat it. Well, look, have you ever smacked your own laptop or wanted to punch your own laptop when it decided to do a system update 3 minutes before you were due to do a really important presentation? If you felt angry towards the machine, well, you're treating it as though it's got a character, and in this case, it's let you down. So machines are in effect characters in stories. In fact, Julian Orr says this. He says, machines represent the intent of their designers, and so are an extension of human interaction with other humans. So when you're getting mad at your laptop and you want to punch it, yeah, you're getting mad at the machine, but actually it's the extension of the person who's designed the machine in such a way that it's doing what it's doing right now. So the machine is a kind of shortcut to the humans around it. So there's, well, who made the machine, who designed it, who uses it, who broke it, and how did they break it? Well, okay, all of that can be in the story of the machine. And what Julian Orr realised as he listened to the engineers talking was they were using narrative as a diagnostic tool. When they were troubleshooting, trying to fix a problem, a repair that was, tricky repair, they would tell those stories. Where did it come from? Who built it? Who designed it? Who's using it? Who's broken it? Yeah, they were using the story to try and troubleshoot to get a fixable problem that they could then work on. And he said it's really interesting when you listen to engineers, and I've had this experience with hundreds of clients, where you listen to them describing their work in the abstract or describing a typical day, and everything is very much at this kind of abstract level. In fact, you get engineer talking to engineer, and it's almost like they're talking in code, because I can't understand a word they're saying, because they're abbreviating everything, because everything's going okay. When something goes wrong, they have to drop down into, in this moment, in this set of circumstances, this thing happened. In other words, when they come to troubleshoot, they're telling a story. Time and place, action, character, all the ingredients of story. They just don't think of it as storytelling. The final insight I took from Julian Orr's fantastic little book was about what is it that drives engineers. And I think engineers are driven by the desire to get the job done, to appear to be competent, right? Okay. And Orr says there are two sides to it. It's like a triangle. He says, look, every job is like a triangle. And there's at the tip of the triangle is you, the engineer, okay? And then on this side of the triangle, there are the things you use, right? So you've got the tools, the technology, the hardware, the software, and you've got to be good at using the things, right? So you've got to be good at controlling things to get the job done. But on the other side of the triangle, there's people, right? The customer, the colleague, the designer, the people, right? And you can't control people. They don't like it. What you need to do with people is you need to understand them. So that's the triangle. There's you, the expert, there's the things you use, and the people you work with. And every single job is like an improvisation. It's like an improvised dance around that triangle. Some jobs you need to fix the stupid bloody things. Some jobs you need to deal with stupid bloody people, right? But always it's that triangle. And what I think is really interesting, well, first of all, that's a really good way to see it, because nobody is going to be a success in work if they can only do things. No matter how good an engineer you are, if you can't also understand people, you're going to struggle. But the other thing about that I think is so interesting is it'll be on one of those aspects, things or people, where stuff will go wrong. And when it goes wrong, you will feel an emotion. Remember, the engineer I told you about came up to me and said, "I'm an engineer, we don't do emotions." And I said to him, "Tell me about the last time one of your machines broke down." And he went, "Oh, it was terrible." He told me a story. Okay. So you can look at that triangle and think, okay, somewhere on this triangle, things or people, something's gone wrong. And when it goes wrong, well, first of all, it takes me to a hopefully fixable problem that I can troubleshoot. But secondly, it takes me to a story that I can tell, because it's a moment where something's happened with emotion involved, and that's a story I can tell. And here's the thing, engineers do tell stories. They call it telling war stories. So when a bunch of engineers get together, that's what they do. They tell little war stories, usually about stupid customers or stupid bosses, but sometimes about stupid equipment. In one of the final chapters in the book, Julian Orr compares the way that engineers tell stories to the way that tribal hunters in primitive societies tell stories. And he said basically the same thing. They're walking through scenarios with each other in order to share knowledge. And he says, technical knowledge is best viewed as a socially distributed resource that's diffused and stored primarily through an oral culture. Now, this is a massive challenge for you if you've got a remote workforce, because how are you sharing the stories? What's the oral culture that you've got? Because people don't write this stuff down. They'll tell each other, but they won't write it down. So that can be a huge challenge. And he said also, with some notable exceptions, those who've never worked in the field have heard of these notorious war stories, but they tend to perceive them as a way of killing time when people should be working. But technicians' stories, engineers' stories, are work. They're part of the diagnosis, and they help preserve the knowledge acquired for the benefit of every other engineer in the company. So if you are an engineer, if you're managing engineers, ask yourself this. When you're talking about machines, where are you sharing these stories? Who's learning from them? Are you writing them down anywhere? Because stories aren't just about work. Stories are work, if you tell them properly.